Hello and welcome to our second MSCAC talk. Thank you all for being here today. We are so glad that you could join us. The primary goal of these talks is to bring together our students, our faculty, and our industry partners to have conversations about where technology is going and what we can do collectively to build a technology ecosystem in Canada, as well as to hear about exciting developments. These talks are hosted by the Master of Science in Applied Computing program, a unique program in Canada, and I would say around the world. The idea of this program is to train grad students in taking on challenges in the industry to become innovators and R&D researchers. Today's talk is in partnership with SOTI, a proven leader at creating innovative solutions that reduce the cost and the complexity of business critical mobility and the IoT. SOTI is also a great partner of the MSCAC program and has been working with us for the past 3 years, posting challenging internship projects, hiring MSCAC students, and continuously contributing to the program's success. Now, to introduce our guest speakers, we have Carol Rodriguez. Carol is President, CEO, and founder of SOTI. Carol founded SOTI in 1995 with a vision for the need for enterprises to manage mobility well before smartphones became prevalent. After 20 years working as an independent IT consultant, Carol developed a solution for managing mobile device screens from a desktop. This innovation put him ahead in what is now the hotly contested EMM market. Over the last 25 years, Carol has taken Mississauga-based SOTI from a one-person startup in his basement to a multi-billion-dollar global leader in enterprise software with over 1,200 talented employees across 28 countries around the world. Welcome, Carol. We also have Sash Anand. Sash is the Vice President of Product Strategy at SOTI and oversees the company's evolution from a single product centered around mobile device management to an integrated platform that solves many of the challenges around enterprise mobility and IoT management. Sash holds a degree in computer engineering from the University of Toronto and an MBA from the Rodman School of Management. Welcome, Sash. I'm going to turn over the floor to Carol Rodriguez now.
Good afternoon. How's everyone doing? So I'm really happy. My name is Carol Rodriguez. I'm the president and CEO of SOTI, as Caroline so eloquently introduced us. So I'm really happy to be with you here today and talk to you all. We've been working with the ARIA program for really many years, and we've had a really good experience. There's many students who actually came to us and did their work terms with us and actually have gone on to really to working with SOTI and are now very active contributors to our company. So great to be here and really happy to be talking to you guys about technology and some of the projects we have in line for you. Some really exciting projects we have in line for you this year.
Yes, and as Caroline mentioned, my name is Sash Anand. I'm the Vice President of Product Strategy at SOTI. I've been with the company for about 12 years now. Super excited. We have many actually of the MSCAC graduates under my team, so I'm really happy to be talking to you guys about who SOTI is and what the projects are that we are working on. We think you're going to be blown away, but let's get started.
Yeah. Now, before we start, I just want you guys to think about this, and I want you to think about how many of you are actively using our technology, maybe using our technology every single day. And I'm going to guess that most of you are thinking, it's like, I don't use SOTI's technology at all, but I'm going to challenge you guys. Let's maybe take a bet, and that all of you guys are using our technology every single day.
Yeah, so let's start off. So I'm going to make a bet that How many of you guys have actually flown on a plane recently? Maybe Air Canada, American Airlines. So why am I asking that? Because a lot of these companies, these airlines, are leveraging mobile devices for their operations, and SOTI's technology is used to manage those different mobile devices to make sure that they're operating correctly, the applications and the content that are on those devices are working properly.
I know all you students are all driving some really fancy cars. So if you drive a Mercedes or a BMW, or even if you're driving, pretty good cars, like a Toyota or a Hyundai or a Volkswagen.
Yeah. All
these manufacturing companies use our technology in their manufacturing processes, and even in some of their showrooms, and they use our technology, on the manufacturing line to scan barcodes, to really look up inventory, to do lots of things. So it's very important, for these manufacturers, to produce their vehicles.
I got another one, Carl. How about receiving a parcel? I'm sure many of you guys have probably ordered something on Amazon. You received a parcel, say through Canada Post, Purelator, FedEx, UPS. I'm sure they've also, so where is that being used? All of these people are probably delivering an item and then they go and take a picture. That mobile device that they're using to kind of do their job, that's managed using SOTI's technology. And we ensure that the applications that are working on those devices, we upgrade them when firmware needs to be upgraded or apps need to be updated. All of that is using SOTI's technology.
So let's talk about food. If you're ordering food, skip the dishes. In different parts of the world, there's different companies. For example, in the UK, they have Just Eats or Delivery Hero in Germany, or Deliveroo. So they have different different companies in different parts of the world these days who will deliver food. You just go into the app or go online and brings food to your doorstep. So all these companies are actually our customers, and actually, it's really critical for them that now, when those orders go in, in many cases, the orders go directly to a restaurant, they have a device right there that's receiving the orders, and they need that device to work, or that restaurant can't take in those orders. So they use our technology to troubleshoot those devices when something bad happens, so that the restaurant can keep taking the orders and keep bringing you guys that great food.
And speaking of food, I'm sure all of you guys have probably been to McDonald's or Burger King or had some chocolate. Once again, these are customers of ours that are using, so say for example, McDonald's, they actually have, in the UK, as an example, they give you tablets. Those tablets are managed using SOTI's technology as well.
Okay, so now that we're taking care of you on the junk food side. Let's talk about one of our customers, American Airlines.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about American Airlines. American Airlines is actually the biggest airline in the world. And I want to just give you an idea of where do they use mobility. We talk about mobile devices. What are these mobile devices? Well, let's imagine you kind of enter the airport and you're there with your luggage and you've got your boarding pass. The device that needs to scan your boarding pass to help you get from when you enter all the way to your actual plane, those devices are managed using SOTI's technology. And whenever there's new versions of their boarding pass application, or if the scanner's not working, SOTI's technology is used to remote in and troubleshoot if those devices are having any problems in real time. In addition to that, the luggage tag, it has to be read by an RFID reader that goes through different conveyor belts. Again, if there's something wrong that happens inside that technology, SOTI is used to help you remote in. Maybe there's firmware that needs to be updated on those RFID readers. Those are the things that we would do to help them manage those operations. When you enter the plane, there's the pilots and the flight attendants. The pilots are actually using iPads which contain flight manual information. So whenever there's something that goes wrong in the cockpit, these devices, they're going to pull up their iPads to get information about the cockpit and how to troubleshoot problems. So SOTI's technology is used to deploy and push all of those flight manuals to those devices and make sure they're always up to date with the latest and greatest. And when you're in business class, I'm sure many of you guys fly in business class, right? You're given tablets, and these tablets have all of the latest and greatest movies on them. How do they get there? Well, they get there using SOTI's push capability to push content to all those devices and make sure it's the same across all their tablets. And we also make sure that they're secured so that you can't go and easily copy data or copy movies from one place to another. So those are just some examples of where these mobile devices are being used.
So now that you know a little bit about why customers use our technology, let's quickly go through the main parts of technology. So we have what we call the SOTI One platform, and this platform is what all our customers use, and it really consists of 6 core components. So let me go through these components really quickly, so you have a flavor of what our technology does and why customers like it. So I'm going to go through the circle. I'm going to start at the top, the blue circle. So the blue circle is SOTI Mobi Control. That's our flagship product. That's kind of the way you should think about it. It's that mission critical control center that gives these companies that visibility into what's really happening in their entire organization. So from here, they can click a button and they can say, deploy this software to all my devices in Germany, or send out this security patch to all my devices in North America. And they can do that very, very quickly. And this is what's needed as companies embrace mobility, and people are all around the world using these in the field. They need to centrally have this control to really power their business. So Mobi Control, it's that mission critical control center. Next up, SOTI Excite. Well, sooner or later, something bad's going to happen. Something's going to break, and you need to be able to troubleshoot and fix it, right? So SOTI Excite has diagnostic capabilities to be able to do that, to fix stuff on the spot, and we're going to talk a bit more about that. But SOTI Excite also has an area called operational intelligence, because when these devices are out there in the field, that business needs to be able to understand what's happening. I mean, those people are out there, you can't see them. How do you know what's happening? How do you know what problems they're having? How do you know if their devices are working well? Well, SOTI Excite gives them that intelligence so they can keep their business running smoothly. And I'm going to show you a bit more about that in a second. Next up, StudySnap. StudySnap allows companies to really build apps really easily. Those medium complexity apps, they can literally go to StudySnap, drag and drop a few blocks, connect them together, and voila, you have an app. Literally, you can create an app in 15 minutes. And a lot of our customers around the world use StudySnap to be able to quickly create certain categories of apps and have them out on the devices. Next up, SOTI Connect. Sometimes they need a sensor, a temperature sensor, a pressure sensor. SOTI Connect allows them to really connect these sort of sensors and devices and IoT devices into their organization and actually do something extra special or do something unique in their business to really help them, be more competitive.
Right.
SOTI Identity, that's our security piece. These days security is very, very important. There's cyber hacks happening everywhere around the world. So we have a security piece to make sure that our customers' data is always safe and secure. And finally, SOTI Central, that's a collaboration piece. How do our customers learn about our products? How do our customers really learn from each other? So they can go into SOTI Central, they can, connect to the forums, they can learn from each other around the world. If I'm in an industry in maybe Sweden and I'm trying to use our SOTI's products, I can ask a question and maybe another customer in Australia might answer. So they can share information between our customers, SOTI, and our partners. And this is how our customers get the best experience from our products. So next, Shash is going to tell us a little bit about SOTI.
So SOTI is a company with over 1,200 employees worldwide. We've actually been around since 1995. I'm not sure if all of you have been around since 1995, but we've been profitable from day one, which is pretty cool. It's actually unheard of in the technology space. And we have 105 consecutive quarters of profitability, which is pretty cool. American Airlines is an example of one customer. We have 17,000 enterprise customers around the world in over 176 countries. We are managing millions and millions of devices all over the world. How do we do that? We actually do that with the help of partners. We have over 4,000 partners that resell our software. In some cases, they're putting together hardware and software and selling it as a solution to an enterprise customer. We also have some pretty cool partners such as Samsung and different manufacturers of mobile devices, Lenovo, Panasonic, Sharp, Casio, Fujitsu, Honeywell, Zebra. All of these are our manufacturers, and we work very closely with them to ensure that we can manage their devices as deep as possible. We also work very closely with Google, Apple, Microsoft, and of course all the different Linux distribution companies as well. Okay, I think we have physical presence, or we said we have people in over 27, 28 different countries now. This is just some of our offices. So we have about 4 offices in Canada. Our EMEA headquarters is in the United Kingdom. We've got an office in Akron, Ohio. Our Asia headquarters is in a place called Gurgaon, India. We just opened up a brand new office in Kerala in the south of India as well. And then we have sales and support offices in Dubai, Japan, Australia, and Sweden. And we also have expanded new office in Ireland where we do a lot of development. So the cool thing about SOTI is you have an opportunity to move around if that's of interest to you as well.
So you heard about one of our customers, but SOTI today has over 17,000 customers around the world. And these customers are literally in every vertical. I mean, mobility, the way it is today, it's used everywhere. And all these companies who really are leveraging mobility need really good technology and tools to manage that operation, because it's all remote, right? So whether you're buying a car, you're flying on a plane, you're eating fast food, you're shopping at Best Buy or any of the big retailers around the world, you know, or you're in trouble with the police, or if you're in jail, SOTI's technology is there behind the scenes, you know, helping all these organizations really do amazing things. You know, our Canadian customers, Canadian Tire, you know, TDC, the police, the BRIC, the Bell, you know, Canadian Blood Services, they're all using our technology.
All right, can I take that? Thank you. All right, so we talked about our enterprise software. We actually opened up a brand new division called SOTI Aerospace just a few years ago. And SOTI is working on this aerial technology, which is focused on aerial drone and robotics research. What you're seeing on the screen is kind of the vision of where we want our drone to be, what it should look like, just to give you an idea. And what you'll see is that, okay, it looks like it's in the sky, but we're actually focusing, and it looks pretty huge, but it's actually about the size of your hand. It's not a little bit bigger than the palm of your hand. And what we're focusing on is indoor navigation, in an autonomous indoor drone. And when it's indoor, you have to have safety in mind. So the propellers, in order for this thing to fly, are safeguarded because safety has to be of utmost importance, of course. And the other thing there's lights on here. We want this drone to be navigating autonomously. So there's no actual physical controls to control where the drone goes. But it will also have cameras on it, and these cameras are what define what we're building is something called a vision system. Our vision system, again, it's for indoor drones. It's to help with identifying objects, to help you do smart avoidance, to help you identify and locate people and objects and perform self-navigation, self-learning, understanding distress situations. We want this drone to actually be able to lift light objects, to be able to transport maybe a wrench or a tool or a part, and be able to move it from one place to the other. Our use case is really in the indoor warehouse, distribution center, manufacturing plant, those types of locations. And it's to help kind of the employees kind of do things that were otherwise, you know, administrative tasks where they have to move around from one place to another. In a warehouse, that's a huge area. So why am I explaining aerospace? Because a few of our projects that we've brought on board the MSCAC students with, I want to show you a little bit of those and how we're going to be continuing on with them. So what you're seeing on the screen is what we call leveraging object detection. Object detection is an algorithm, and what we're doing is we're pre-training the drone with a number of specific objects, and here what we're seeing is bounding boxes around it. It's a 2D box with an item that we're guessing is the item, and there's a confidence level associated with it, and that's what you see that number. It's representing the confidence level. And so what you're seeing here is, have any of you guys heard of the algorithm called YOLO? Well, YOLO, it's not Drake's, you know, you only live once. This algorithm is called you only look once. And so what we're noticing is that when we want to research into different algorithms to say how good do they identify objects. And YOLO is just an example of one, and it's at version 5. So we're doing more and more research into different algorithms to find out what are the best ones that we can use to identify objects. The next is around scene classification. So once I've identified these objects, I want to know what room I'm in, because with our drone, we want to be able to speak to it in a natural language and be able to tell it to go to different places or ask it what room a specific person is in, as an example. So we're leveraging different algorithms to do scene classification. The next area is, of course, once you have identified scenes, you want to be able to kind of go into any room and be able to build out a map or build out a memory of that particular location. And that requires the identification of objects, but also depth perception. What you're seeing on the left are these 3D point clouds. So we're taking frame by frame. You're seeing green, red, and yellow, which kind of signifies the contrast when it detects different points. So this 3D point cloud is used on the left. On the right, you'll see a blue and green kind of line that represent an axis. And you're seeing this white squiggly line, which is creating a history of where the drone is. And what we're doing here is we're actually building memory into the drone so that it can eventually build out a 3-dimensional map. And we're leveraging algorithms called SLAM, simultaneous localization and mapping, so that we can build out a 3D map. So why am I explaining all this? Because the next project that we're looking to bring on board from students is related to geometry projection-based 3D object detection. What does that mean? We're essentially building these bounding boxes, and we're continuing the research that we did on 2D object detection, and we're moving that over to 3D object detection, where we have these bounding boxes. And we want to be able to understand and optimize a solution to run in real time. Today's algorithms, they're very, they're very, what do you call it? Horsepower bound, so that they use a lot of horsepower, but we want to be able to run these algorithms on the drone. And so we have to think about that kind of edge computing device. The next project is around autonomous navigation. So, it's great we have a good understanding of our surroundings, but now we have to think about actually moving at a good speed throughout the indoor location. So that's where this project comes in. It's kind of broken down into 3 steps. One is around visual odometry. And what is that? That's about being able to estimate the position of the camera and figuring out where it is at all times. Then it's about stage 2, which is motion planning. Now we want to figure out, how do you move through different areas without hitting any obstacles? And so that's what those diagrams are showing you. And finally, it's the manipulation of the drone, or the UAV. This is about converting your planned path into actual commands that the drone can run. And so these commands are sent through something called a flight controller. We're using a PX4, and it's also needing to send commands through a messaging protocol, which is called the MAV link. So we're looking for students to help us into researching to this area.
So next, I'm going to talk to you about one of our products, SOTI Excite. I've briefly described it before, but we're going to go into a little bit more depth. So if you remember, I said SOTI Excite, it has 2 core areas, right? So one is that diagnostic area to help you deal with problems in the field that may have occurred, so you can minimize that downtime. And the second one is the operational intelligence, to give the business an idea about really what's happening in its business in the field, and ideally to be able to predict something's going to fail before it does, so you can avoid that downtime, right? So in my race car analogy, you have this race car here, Formula 1 race cars, when the car goes into the pit, it change the tires, that's considered downtime. They're trying to get that car out of there as fast as possible. So what we want to do with SOTI Excite, the reasons got race car, we are helping those businesses accelerate their business and tune it for maximum efficiency. So we want to reduce that downtime in the pit stop, changing the tires, or even really completely avoid it, right? So figure out ways to tune the car to avoid that pit stop. So if you want a fast race car analogy, that's why we do it. So we want our customers to understand this is what this product is going to do. Now, when I log into SOTI Excite, so the first area that I go into is the diagnostic area. So here you can see the tickets that are the incidents that we created that they're working on right now, and they can go in and do a lot of things. And there's lots of tools here, diagnostic tools, to help them really minimize that time. I'm not going to get into that area too much right now. I'm actually going to go into the second area, because this is what the project for the students is about. It's about the operational intelligence. So I'm going to go to the top. I'm going to select operational intelligence. And this is the operational intelligence area. And so what are you looking at? You're looking at a bunch of charts that are really looking at the data that's coming off these devices. So on each device, we have an agent, and the agent is talking back to our servers and giving us data. And when it gets to our server allows that person, you know, in the headquarters to gain visibility. Now, all these charts are actually very interactive. You can click, for example, on any of those donuts there, you can click on a slice in that donut and you can really zoom in on that particular type of data. So for example, in the top left-hand corner, if you see you see the manufacturers. If I click, for example, on the slice that says Samsung, all the other charts will update and we'll only be looking at the Samsung devices. If in the next chart, I then click on a particular manufacturer, okay, now I've a particular model. I've then zoomed in on Samsung devices of a particular model. So I can dice and slice my data in a very, very precise manner. Now, to give you an example, if you look at the center chart, that center donut, so this, what you're looking here is what we call our battery dashboard, and it's used to analyze battery performance. So in that center chart, right in the center, you see there's a donut and it's got a bit of an orangey brown part, right? And that piece is marked as bad. So it's saying on those devices, the batteries are not performing optimally. So now this would be an area that a company would want to look at, because if the battery's not performing well, it could mean downtime in the future. So I'm actually going to click on that slice, and it's going to pull out that slice, but I want you to notice all the other charts updated. So basically it's live. It actually took out just the devices that are having performance issues and updated it. Now, if I click on another, maybe I click on a certain manufacturer, it showed me the bad devices for that particular manufacturer. So I just want you to understand how interactive this is, right? Now, once I've identified a bunch of devices that are having problems, there's another area of the product, it's called the spotlight, where I can take those specific devices that are having problems and I can zoom in on them and actually do some more further analysis. So here I've taken those devices with the bad batteries and I've brought them into our spotlight. And here on the left, you can see I can select each one of those devices individually and get detailed analysis on those specific devices. Now, we have many sorts of types of analysis in SOTI Excite. So we have a variety of dashboards. I kind of focus on the battery, but we have many. So I'm going to click on the menu there in the top left, and you're going to see the various dashboards that are available. So we not only have a battery analysis, we have app analysis, right? Why do you need app analysis? Well, it's a business. They have a bunch of the apps on the devices. They need to see how those apps are performing. How much time is a particular worker spending in each app? On average, what are all my people in my sales division spending inside this business app versus that business app? By understanding how those apps are performing, how much they're being used, how they're being used, the company can really tune their business for maximum efficiency. You really have to understand, in the mobility world, these people are not in your office. They're out there somewhere in the world. In many cases, they're all around the world in different cities and different countries. And the company, the business, has to understand what's going on there to really tune their business, get their race car going faster, right? So that's some of our dashboards. We also have a data dashboard. Data is really very important because that mobility, that company is using the cellular towers, right? So if they're using a lot of data, their data bill could literally be in the millions. Some of our customers have over 1 million devices, right? Imagine, some of us have teenager kids, and we look at the bill and we're like, what were you doing? Well, they have, millions of devices. Imagine how big that bill is. So by giving them the visibility to reduce that data consumption on those devices, we can literally save them millions. So another area is location. They might want to look at a map and say, well, where's my fleet? Why do I have so few people in this zone as opposed to this zone? I might need more coverage in that area. So letting them look at their people from the air gives them a lot of good visibility, right? Signal strength is another dashboard. Signal strength. Well, by looking at heat maps at the signal strength that their devices are getting, they can look at how well, it affects their business apps, right? So they might say, hey, I'm getting bad signal strength in this area. Maybe I need to switch to another carrier in that area. So we give them this visibility and to let them tune their operation. Now, okay, this is great, but companies sometimes need to look at things based on how their business is organized. So on the left here, you can see these different departments. So the company can actually zoom in and look at data by department. So if I'm working in the warehouse area, I don't care about what's going on in distribution. My job is to make sure the warehouse department works well. So they can dice and slice their data that way as well. So it's important to let the company really look at the data they want. So this is what SOTI Excite gives you. I talked about signal strength. So let's actually go and look at signal strength a little bit. So here on the map, you see these various kind of, colored spots, right? They represent the signal strength in the area. We call it a heat map. So you can see there's a green spot. It means the devices that this business has that are in that area are getting good signal strength. We see a lot of orange spots. It means the devices in those other areas, the signal strength, isn't as good, right? So, once you see this, you can look at what may be causing that. If I don't want to look at it from a heat map perspective, I can go in and I can click on those signal strengths and I can look at the numbers behind that, right? So here it's showing us that how many devices I have reporting from those areas, and it's showing me what is their signals. I can see that a lot of orange on there. And then if I wanted to go a bit further, I can click on one of those spots and I can get even more detailed information. So from there. Now, if I want to know, okay, now I have 13 or so devices reporting from that area. If I want to say, well, let me look at these devices even closer, I can take those devices back into the spotlight area, which is our microscope, and I can look at those devices in much more detail. So here I can click through all the devices on the left-hand side, and I can see for a particular device where it reported from. So those are the places where those devices reported data from, right? So those are the data points we have on that device, and I can do further analysis. Okay, so now that you have, I've given you that kind of quick description of SOTI Excite in world record time. There's just so much in that product that I try to squeeze in that time, and I hope you guys kind of understood why data is so important. We want to take SOTI Excite to the next level, right? And we want to be able to predict when things are going to fail, and that's what this research area is about, right? It's about looking at the data, combining some sets of data, right? So in this chart, we're looking at 2 or 3 things. We're looking at the discharge rate. We're looking at other things, and we want to say, is there a pattern that actually occurs when a problem occurs, when a problem happens, right? You can call it a disorder, or does that pattern start to occur before the problem happens? That's the best situation. We see the pattern before, so we can avoid the problem. When you go to a doctor, you get all those tests. The doctor says, will say, hey, based on these tests, I can see you're going into this area, but if you do these things, you change these lifestyle habits, right? Josh, like you got to lose some weight.
I got to lose some weight, I know.
I'm just kidding. But if we change a few things, we can avoid the disorder. So that's what we want to do on these devices as well. We want to predict things and really change things up a bit so we can avoid that downtime, right? And that's what this is about. So we want to be able to identify the parameters. We want to be able to really categorize them in what we call recipes for disorders. And then we want to be able to analyze them in real time to detect them and really provide preemptive solutions. And we also want great ways to visualize them. Sometimes when you explain something to a customer, the customer needs to really visualize it. So here we've given you an example how we're trying to visualize the problem so that the customer really understands it and can really do the right things. So next we're going to go back to Shosh, and he's going to talk about StudySnap.
All right, so Carl talked about StudySnap being this rapid app development platform. Well, the next evolution of this is around leveraging your natural language, your voice, to be able to ask questions about a mobile application. So let me explain So what we're seeing here is somebody asking a question. They're maybe typing it in or using their voice. And what they could do is what we're building is something called an AI engine. This AI engine will be able to take information from a natural language and be able to then provide an answer, look up the information maybe through a query, and then provide an information to that answer in a natural language as well. And we have MSc students already working on some of this research, which is pretty cool. I just want to walk you through a quick example. Let's imagine John here is the CEO of a company, of a rocket fruit company, and he has salespeople all over the world that are leveraging StudySnap to collect information about sales. And so this is an example here of, say, Jenny. Jenny is inputting information into that StudySnap app, and it's collecting a lot of data. Well, what happens is all this data is then aggregated into a spreadsheet or a database, such as a SQL database. And now you have all this information. So what does John need to do? John wants to know what's going on with his business, and he needs visibility. Is John going to go in and kind of look through all of those sheets and reports and try to figure out all this information? No, John's a little bit smarter than that. He's not going to do that. He's probably going to go on and look into a report, maybe generate a report. But the reality is all that's a lot of work. He just wants to ask a simple question. How much revenue was earned when Jenny made a sale to Big Apple? And that's the problem we're trying to solve. Make it super easy for you to build an app, but then also just use your voice to get application analytics about the data. So that's what project number 4 is about. We're leveraging speech to text. We're going to take that text, convert it into a query. That query will run against a database. It'll go through an answering engine, and then it'll come back in an answer in a very simple format. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges that are faced when you understand natural language and how you move that to a query. So first, it's about people using normalizing time expressions. So we use a library called SU Time. And we want to be able to understand when people say things like, hey, what happened last Wednesday at 3 p.m. or what was my sales since that number? And so last Wednesday at 3 p.m. has to translate into an actual timestamp or a query. Or if you said, how much revenue has John gained in the past 2 years? Well, in the past 2 years has to take a relative date and time today and go back 2 years ago, exactly to this time. So that's an example of where SU Time is a library that helps you with these expressions. Another one is vague detection. So what do I mean by that? It might be where you're asking a question about how much money was made in Canada. And you may calculate money, and money may mean sales. It may mean, could be revenue or profit. So you want to be able to go back to the user who provided you with that question and ask them a follow-up question to get more information and give you a more precise answer about what are you talking about? Are you asking about revenue or profit? So this is a challenge when you want to speak to like a Google or an Alexa or any of these, or Siri or any of them. You want to be able to have these follow-up conversations. Another one is what we call the Fuzzy Wuzzy library. This is where you have to match things like Canada versus Canadian, or if somebody says Jonathan and in your data it says John. Or if you said apple and banana or apple or banana, what does that mean in terms of a query? So we leverage this library. And finally, nested queries. So a lot of people might say, show me the salesperson who earned more than the average profit. Now you've got to figure out what the average profit is. That's a nested query inside, show me the salesperson, which is another query. So these are just examples of challenges that we have around natural language. And this is what one of the next projects are that we're looking for. We're looking for a couple of people to help us with that.
So Shash, I have to ask this question, right?
What's that?
Is that the real name of that algorithm, the Fuzzy Wuzzy?
Yeah, it's the Fuzzy Wuzzy library.
Okay. Do you guys use the Squeezy Weezy?
That'll be the next project.
Next year's research
yes.
project. Okay, the next topic I'm going to talk about is data optimization. So to help you understand, I just wanted to talk about something we did a little while ago, and that's real. So our customers, they use our stuff, and it's mission critical. They need to deliver data fast. For example, we have one of our customers here in Canada is Canadian Blood Services, right? So if they need to do something, the delivery of the data is critical. You need to get the data there as fast as possible. So because of that, we have to, in the back end, we have to think about we always think about how to deliver data faster. So one of the projects we had a few years ago is we kind of created a benchmark, right? And this benchmark to deliver a bunch of files and data to some thousands of devices, it took 5 hours and 44 minutes. And we challenged ourselves and said, how do we reduce this? So if you look, here's an example. Our customers use our servers, and when they're going into these retail warehouses or distribution centers, each device in that store has a connection back to our server, right? And for example, if this customer needed to deliver a new app and update to an app, it would send that app to each of those devices. So if you think about it, this store, typically it has a dedicated connection to their headquarters. And that connection, the bandwidth on there is limited because they send all their sales transactions. Whenever they need to update some marketing information, they send it on that same pipe into the store, right? So that's why we say it's limited bandwidth connection, because it's shared with everything in the store. So if we send this app 4 times to these 4 devices, we're not using it most efficiently. We're sending the same data 4 times, right? So, our customers, looking at this picture wouldn't be too happy. Now, in this case, I drew 4 devices, but think of a big box store like a Best Buy, there might be 300 devices in that store. And, and if we are sending the same app 300 times, and maybe they're sending 5 apps or something like that, think, 5 times 300, it's very inefficient. So one of the things we have to do is reduce the data. Another thing we need to do is see if you can make the data smaller. Is some of the data already there? Maybe we just send the delta. So there's a bunch of things we need to do. So we actually took this problem and we did a bunch of things. And what we did is we introduced a component that we could actually deploy right in the store, right in the warehouse, the distribution center, so that we actually send these apps once into what we call the hub, and then it distributes internally. So the hub inside the store, they typically have very fast networks. It's not shared, it's a fast wireless network or something like that. But we did a bunch of other things, right? We optimized our data, we compressed our data, we looked at how much CPU our servers were using. Could we make the servers really do less and more efficiently? We changed a bunch of things. We changed about 15 or 20 things. But the net result was we took that 5 hours and 44 minutes and we brought it down to 19 minutes. So it was a massive optimization, and our customers were super happy, because things that sometimes took them, 12 hours or something like that, just happen so much faster now. So that's what this project is about. It's about how do we make things even faster. So we've done those things, but we know there's many more things we can do. So we have a lot of ideas on this, and it's an opportunity to look at various things. How do we serialize data? We call it serialization. How do we do better compression? How do we look at before we send something there? Imagine we're sending a new version of an app. The old version is there, but maybe just a few bytes of data changed in that app file. Do we really need to send the whole app? Could I just send that delta and really with some instructions and tell the other side how to rebuild the app file on the other side? So there's a bunch of things we can do to make this really fast. This is one of the areas that I'm personally very interested in. So the downside of taking this project, you might have to work with me, but it's pretty cool, and it's really if you like algorithms and all, this would be a really cool research project. So next up we have a video. Yes. I think we have a video. Yes. And the video talks is telling a story about 2 students, 2 real-life students, who actually did their internship from the same program a few years ago, and what the experience was like, and what happened to them. So with that, we're going to roll the video.
It's one more.
StudySnap is a rapid app development platform, and the idea is to build applications in minutes and have anybody be able to build them. And this is where Jamie and Sahil came in.
I studied at McMaster University in undergrad, and I did an MA there as well. And then I'm currently an applied research student at University of Toronto in computer science. I spend most of my free time developing software, often for audio applications and sound performance. So definitely having some of that technical experience was helpful.
I was interested in electronic projects, but when I went to the university, I realized the power of computers, and then all the electronic projects that I've been working on could be controlled with the computers. That's the reason I got into programming.
So the project they ended up working on is called SOTI Blockly. And SOTI Blockly is this block programming interface that they actually went in, researched on what type of tools are out there already today, how can we make them better, and then how do we incorporate SOTI Blockly into StudySnap.
I worked on the SOTI Blockly project, which is adding a new visual programming interface to StudySnap. I had worked on similar projects before, so I was super excited to continue with that work. And aside from that, I had really good impressions from Shosh and Kim and the rest of the SOTI team that I met before joining here.
We recently received an Outstanding Innovation Award for the project we were building throughout our internship.
We got called up on stage, and it felt like half of SOTI was there cheering us on. I think we had the loudest cheers of almost anyone.
I think SOTI has definitely prepared me for the future roles that I'm looking for. When I joined SOTI, I was just a front-end developer, but after joining, I involved myself into various other parts like the backend and the DevOps and the sysadmin, and I see myself in 5 years to be leading a team.
So if you're thinking of interning here at SOTI, I can speak from my experience. It's been a really fantastic place to grow my career. It has all the resources of a big company, but has sort of the feel of a startup. You have lots of room to explore and to learn. So yeah, it's been a really fantastic place to start.
Okay, so we're back. Hopefully you guys can hear us. So that was, two students from your program who did really well, and their technology actually put into production, and it's doing very well.
Yeah.
So with that, we want to just open up to questions. If you want to contact me and Shosh anytime, we're happy to take any of your questions. We have Giovanna, who's kind of would be your representative. If you have any questions for her, she'll be happy to help you as well. And if you want, access to any of our projects, our internship projects, you can scan the barcode or, hit that URL there, and you can get the detailed PDFs about what projects we have on for this year. So that, if any of you have questions, we're happy to talk to you. If you want Shosh to tell you more about those fancy algorithms he's using there, those really cool names.
Yeah.
You can ask him about those too.
Okay, well, thanks for the talk, guys. That was a great talk. We have some time now, so if anybody has any questions they'd like to ask, you're free to post your questions in the chat, but we encourage you to use the raise hand feature to ask the questions directly to our guests. So like Carl mentioned, Giovanna from SOTI and myself will be moderating the Q&A portion of this talk. So if you have any questions, raise your hand and we'll pick you one by one. So far we don't have anybody with their hand raised, but we have a question. I think we have a question in the chat here. So I wanted to know how many projects worked on by MSCAC students see the light of day and get productionized in some way. Also, do students get exposed to larger business contexts while working on these projects, maybe through interactions with customers or business teams?
Let me try first, and maybe
Sure.
I can add in.
Yeah.
So it depends, right? So some of these projects are longer term research areas. So our aerospace project, for example, that is a pretty dedicated research area to really create a drone that really has those capabilities, that's totally autonomous, that really looks, it's like a human, right? When a human walks into a space, our brains are recording what's happening in the space. It's built a 3D image, and later on we can picture and we can imagine how we navigate through that space. So that's what we try to build in a drone. It's a highly intelligent drone. You can really give it a command and you can say, go to this place, or go find this person, go deliver this there. So that's that's a big problem, right? And that no one in the world has really solved, right? So we are putting a lot of research into that, and we made some really cool progress. So that research is kind of ongoing and has been, for many years. Has been for a few years, but we really expect it's going to continue for many years. And as things get ripe, we see opportunities to take those bits from that research project and really use them in other parts of our business. The work that Sahil and Jamie did, that is in production. So they built capability to really build logic without programming, using something called Blockly. You can drag and drop these building blocks and add logic to our app generation capability. There's other MCASE students who are part of Sharsh's team, who actually are building software that's going into production again on the Snap side.
Yep.
That other project that was talked about using AI and machine learning to really look at the data generated by those apps and to really answer questions that the author of the app never expected or never planned, right? So that's what that project was about. A lot of research has been done. A lot of MCAC students have actually participated in that research, and that piece, the first gen of that, is actually being put into production now. So very much. But there's more research we want to do that. We want to make that even better. So there's a lot of work that, and actually we have another bunch of students again from your program who worked on a Linux agent for our software.
Yeah.
So that's in production already. So we have a lot of work that has gone into production from the research that has been done, MCAC students. Shash, do you want to add something to that?
What was the second part of the question? I missed it, but I think Carl covered most of the projects, and our goal is always to really get this into production. And I think that is where we add a lot of value. We can help with commercializing it. You're going to learn a lot, not only about research, but how do you take something from research to reality, to in a customer's hand, to understanding their user experience, the human computer interaction. We really want you guys to focus on testing these things out and seeing what a live customer would give you back, what kind of feedback you get from a live customer, from the salespeople. How do you sell it? How do you differentiate? So there's a whole cycle that we want you to go through and experience. It's a short amount of time for the 8 months, so we actually hope you stay on board and come, because we want you to see this through to fruition and see multiple cycles of it. It's a really exciting opportunity, I think.
I think where you go with that is really up to you. So if you want, if some people want more customer interaction, some people want to really work more on the algorithm. So it depends. It depends from person to person. So we have some people who've gone on and more interested in the product management side, right? So other guys want to stay very technical. So it depends on what you want. So the opportunities here we have. We're not a small company. There's lots of opportunities. Some people actually, they've come in here on one project on their research, and they've realized that this other area on the other side that are really interested in, and they've actually changed departments.
That's right. Yeah.
So because they're interested in that other area, as a more their career, longer term. So the opportunities are here. It depends on your nature as a human being, as a person, and also it depends on what areas you're interested in.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So the second part of the question was just get exposure to larger business contexts, projects through interactions with customers or business teams.
Yes. In fact, Jamie and Sahil also had. So the question was around: do you get interaction with other business units and other areas of the business? Yes, absolutely. You will interact with the sales team, the marketing team, the product management team, the QA team. All of the different organizations. Actually, it depends on what you're doing your research on, but our intention is to always get into the productization mindset and give you exposure to all the different teams. When Jamie and Sahil, the two that won the Innovation Award, they actually went and tested things with our finance department to see if puzzle pieces were easy to move around between them, and they wanted to understand the human-computer interaction. They did a whole research area, just a whole research project within that. And seeing, okay, do they understand how to drag and drop pieces? So it's really also up to you guys to say, okay, we want to do this and this, and we're really open for you guys because we want you to flourish. We want you to meet as many people as possible and understand the entire software development or hardware development life cycles.
So one of the cool things they did that I think was a blast for them is every quarter we have something we call Pulse Live, SOTI Pulse Live, where we get to we kind of tell our employees around the world. So it's a live stream, right, around the world. India, Australia, Germany, France, Italy. So there are people all over the world, right? So people are people in I think 28 countries really tune in and are listening. And Jamie and Sahil, we got them to participate in that. So in addition, so we tell them normally our financial reports, how many sales, new customers, and all those sort of things. But we let them talk about the work they had done on their research projects. That was pretty cool.
And they demonstrated it.
They did a live demonstration to
1,200 people
to all our employees around the world. So that's pretty cool. So it depends what they want. They wanted to do that. They were interested. So we said, yeah, sure, go ahead, do it.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Hope that answers that question.
Yeah, you guys answered that question. So there's another question from Deep Kamal. He said, I understand that the goal of Xsite is to be able to make predictions about failures. I was wondering if Xsite is currently built using something like PowerBI dashboards or uses other technologies as well, and whether building those dashboards would also be a part of the internship project.
Okay, so Power BI, Power BI is a Microsoft business intelligence kind of analytics tool, right? So all our technology you saw there it's not Microsoft's, and it's all our own. It's 100% built in-house. So we're not layering on top of an existing product. So it's all our stuff. So we're trying to do stuff that in many cases no one else does, right? So we have to kind of really think about it in a different way. So for example, right now, one of the problems is, we talk about battery analysis, right? So some of these very, there's a certain type of devices we manage that are called rugged devices. You've probably seen these in a Home Depot or Best Buy. They're heavier, they have a trigger, and they used to scan barcodes and all that, right? So these things have what's called smart batteries, right? So our customers are saying, hey, the batteries move between devices. So you can't track a battery on a device. You have to track the battery life cycle, wherever it goes. I need to be able to say, how well is this battery doing? But it might be in one device today, it might be another device tomorrow, it might be somewhere else. So, we need to do analysis. Our technology, our agents can be used even in cars these days, right? Because cars are running Android Auto and these sort of things, right? So our analysis, the type of stuff we're doing is pretty wide and varied. So these conventional tools might not actually suit it really well. We have customers in the Nordics, for example, who are using forklift trucks, right? And the forklift trucks have computers on board, and they want to be able to provide analysis. So one of the things we're working in our Irish development organization is indoor location, right? So they want to be able to provide analysis on. And so the development in the Irish office is really looking at, tracking devices inside a floor map by providing analysis. And that might be useful technology for our customers in Sweden, because they're tracking forklifts and they want analysis of that kind of stuff, right? So, how many kilometers is the forklift getting per battery charge, for example, while it's in this space, does the battery perform really well, better or worse when the forklift goes outside and exposed to cold temperatures, right? So there's lots of things we have to do, to do this thing, and sometimes these conventional tools that are out there don't work. Sometimes there's some libraries that can help us, so you have to kind of figure out what's needed for the situation. So there's lots of opportunity. I think if you work on that project, you'll see there's some pretty cool technology we have, and as well as lots of cool things we're trying to do. I think this diagnostics area is really cool. It's like you're creating an MRI machine for mobile device data to predict things that might happen in the future and avoid those problems or diseases. So I hope that makes sense.
So we have another question from Nikhil. Is the NLP project some continuation of older logic, which will be continuing, or something fresh? If it's a continuation, what skill are you looking for in prospective candidates?
It is a continuation. So we do have a team that built the kind of foundation first. This is a continuation where we're going into more complex. So as we tested out the natural language and what questions you should ask or what you could ask, we gave it to a bunch of different people. So Carl or whoever would ask a question, and we would kind of say, okay, you have to ask these types of questions first in the first iteration. But now the questions are getting more complicated. People are asking about time. People are asking about different areas. So the logic, so as I mentioned, the fuzzy wuzzy logic, these are all areas where we have to think about what are the entire possibility of questions that could be asked about a specific application that we've never even seen before, but that we're collecting data for. So this is kind of again, it's the first of its kind. You know, how do you build an app in a few minutes? As Carl mentioned, we can build an app in a few minutes without any code or programming required. How can you ask questions about this application after it's been built without any programming required, and leveraging an AI engine to give you the answers to the data and the summary? So we're going and we're building on top of it. And then the second question, the follow-up was, what was that about?
So if it's a continuation, what skills are you looking for in a prospective candidate?
We'll have the list of skill sets kind of documented inside the project description. But really what we're looking for are people that are interested in NLP, that are interested in different machine learning algorithms related to NLP. So if you're familiar with BERT, BERT's, I don't remember the exact acronym, but it's one of the machine learning algorithms that you would use for natural language processing. We're doing research into that area where a knowledge about SQL, about querying languages, that would be very helpful for you to understand, you know, what does it mean to take a natural language and how do you convert that to a query that would be run in a database. So understanding database skills, I think, is helpful.
I would say slightly different, right?
Okay.
So you know, we understand that as students, you don't have experience in a lot of areas, right? So, but what we're really interested in really, you know, what's up here, your thinking ability. As it turns out, really smart people, they can learn whatever they don't know, right? So that's really what we're interested in. So if you have a passion, if you have a fire, if you're interested and you have the compute power up here, you know, we can work with you to help you learn whatever you don't know. So that's really what we're interested in. And regarding, you know, that software that we're talking about, right, to really answer questions, right? So the interesting thing is we're beginning to realize we can answer questions that are way beyond the boundaries of what the data that actually is collected by default. You create an app to collect certain types of data, and you may think, well, the questions you ask are limited by that data that you ask the software to collect, right?
Right.
If you asked it when you make an order, it collects name, address, phone number, and how many of that items you're buying. You're saying, well, your data, the question should be limited to the data, but it's actually not, right? So that's the interesting thing is, right? So when we collect the data, so we generated the app. So you went to StudySnap and you said, I want to collect this data. I want to create this kind of order processing. It's running on the device, but guess what? Because that app is running under our control, we can also collect potentially other data. So if the person says, hey, can I collect other data that can answer questions, we can collect you know, the weather, we can collect the data, we can collect you know, the elevation, how fast that vehicle might have been moving when you did it. And now we can answer questions. You could say, well, on a sunny day in Mississauga, you know, what flavor of ice cream sells the best? And we can answer that question. You know, if you have an ice cream app that's being used to sell ice cream, and the developer of that app never thought or even, you know, designed for that, but we can answer that question, right? So because we captured those characteristics, we know where the guy was, we know what the temperature was, because we can go to the internet, and at the time we record that, we can see what the location was, we can see how fast he was moving, you know, we all these things. So this extra data, right, that we calculate allows us to answer questions that are way beyond what a developer ever imagined. So this is really cool stuff. So so when you think about this, right, you can really really do much more, right? So that's where we are. We're looking at the extra data and we're saying, what more can we answer? How can we make these apps do stuff that you never imagined? So it's pretty, I think that's a pretty cool project.
Yeah, that's a good way.
Can I actually take on one of the internships?
I think you would want to.
I don't want to.
Carl has a computer science background, so he spends more of his time architecting and designing things than he does at the C level, at the CEO. He's our CTO, really.
Any other questions, guys?
Well, there was one more question on, so are these opportunities open only to MSCAC students? Do you accept PhDs in ECE and computer science?
Yeah.
No, we want smart people. So, that's what it's limited to. So if you're a smart person, you have a passion, you have a fire, you want to do really cool stuff, we're happy to talk to you. And
Yeah, we have PhD students, we have computer science students, computer engineering, mechatronics. We have different disciplines, but as Carl said, if they're smart and they're excited and they're passionate, we want to hear from you.
Great. Okay, so we're coming up to the end of the talk. The presentation was great. You guys answered the questions great. So we hope these talks become a little more frequent in the future.
Okay.
And so just keep checking the webpage for updates. So Carol, over to you.
Yeah, and last, maybe take a picture of this, this little thing. If you want to know about any of these internship projects, just go to the link or scan the barcode, or me and Shash are happy to talk to you.
Yeah.
Giovanna also is very happy to talk to you. So thank you again for this opportunity, and hope to hear from you.
Thanks, guys. Thank you very much for the questions. And thanks for taking the time to listen.
So thank you, everyone. A special thanks to SOTI, Carl, Sash, Giovanna. Thank you for being so involved with the MSCAC program. We are deeply grateful to you for your investment in the program as well as in our students' learning. So thank you all for being here today and looking forward to the next MSCAC talk. Bye for now.
Take care, guys. Bye-bye.